Have you ever felt like your own mind was both your greatest ally and your deepest enemy? One moment, a thought inspires you, lifts you into vision, and gives you courage. The next, another thought drags you down, whispering fear, doubt, and shame. Feelings rise in the body just as unpredictably. Sometimes a surge of joy, sometimes a wave of sadness, sometimes an ache of anxiety you cannot explain. We spend so much of life caught in this tug of war, thinking we must control one side and suppress the other. But what if neither thought nor feeling is the enemy? What if the real freedom is found not in fighting them, but in seeing that you are the awareness holding them both? Stay with me, because in this video we will explore how to live beyond the grip of thought and feeling and step into the deeper peace that has been waiting within you all along. From the very first moments of our existence, long before we knew words or ideas, feelings were already guiding us. An infant does not reason its way into crying when it is hungry. It simply feels discomfort and responds. That primal wave of sensation, hunger, fear, warmth, or joy arrives before thought has even formed. This is the foundation of life. Feelings were the first compass, pointing us toward survival, pointing us toward connection. And only later, as the brain developed and language appeared, did thought begin to weave its intricate patterns on top of those primal signals. Science confirms what intuition has always whispered. Feelings are rooted in the older structures of the brain, deep within the limbic system. They fire quickly, automatically to protect us and guide us. A sudden noise triggers fear before we know what has happened. The warmth of touch brings safety before we can explain it. Feelings surge like fire, immediate and raw. Thinking, however, belongs to the newer regions of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. It is slower, deliberate, capable of weighing choices and imagining outcomes. Thinking allows us to pause, to create strategies, to consider the long term, imagine the story of our ancestors. A rustle in the bushes at night sparks a feeling of fear. The body tenses, ready to run. That feeling saves a life. But later the mind evolves enough to wonder what caused the sound. How can we build shelter? How can we prepare for tomorrow? Thought builds upon feeling, refining instinct into intelligence. One is primal, the other is refined, and together they shape the human experience. Yet even now, in our modern world, we carry both within us. Feelings still surge quickly, often before we can explain them. Thoughts still arrive, sometimes helpful, sometimes overwhelming. And because they move together, so tightly bound, we often confuse their roles. We may expect feelings to behave like thoughts, logical and steady, or we may allow thoughts to bury feelings, leaving them unresolved and heavy. The result is inner conflict, the sense of being torn between head and heart. Take a simple example. You feel sadness, the body grows heavy, the breath slows. Almost instantly, thoughts rush in to explain, this is because I failed, this is because they left, this is because I am not enough. Soon, the sadness is no longer just a wave of energy moving through the body. It becomes a story and identity. I am a sad person. Life is against me. What began as a natural feeling becomes a prison built by the looping of thought and feeling feeding each other. But it is possible to see this process more clearly. The next time a strong feeling arises, pause. Notice the raw sensation in the body, the racing heart, the tightness in the chest, the flutter in the stomach. Then notice the thoughts that come with it. See how one fuels the other. And finally, notice the awareness that is holding both. That awareness is not heavy, it is not racing, it is simply present. It is the silent witness that sees the storm without being consumed by it. When you begin to rest in that awareness, the struggle softens. Feelings still come, but they are seen as passing waves. Thoughts still come, but they are seen as passing stories. Neither needs to be resisted, neither needs to be clung to. They can both be honored, both allowed, but neither owns you. In that shift, you discover freedom. This freedom is not about becoming detached, it is not about turning cold. In fact, it allows you to feel more deeply, to think more clearly, because you are no longer tangled in identification. Anger can still arise, but instead of exploding outward, you notice it, you breathe, you choose a wise response. Fear can still arise, but instead of paralyzing you, you see it as energy, reminding you to pay attention. Joy can still arise, and instead of clinging to it desperately, you savor it fully, knowing it will pass, but knowing that awareness itself remains. This is the dance of life, feeling and thinking, moving together, rising and falling, all within the vast field of awareness. When you live identified with them, you are tossed like a leaf in the wind. When you live as awareness, you are the sky itself, watching the wind pass through. So begin to practice. The next time you feel an emotion, or the next time a thought grips you, pause and ask, who is noticing this? Do not look for a mental answer. Feel into the noticing itself. That noticing is awareness. It has no form, no weight, no story. It is open, still, unchanging. From that place, the thought and the feeling can move freely, but you remain steady. This is the secret many seekers have discovered. You do not have to be trapped by the endless cycles of your inner world. You can honor thought, you can honor feeling, but you can also rest in what holds them both. When you do, life opens into a new kind of freedom. A freedom where peace is not dependent on the mind being quiet or the emotions being calm. A freedom that is always available, because awareness has always been here, waiting, silent and whole. When we look closely at the movement of thought and feeling, we see that they are not only connected but entangled in ways that can either free us or bind us. Sometimes a thought arrives first and immediately stirs the body. You think of a meeting tomorrow and your stomach knots with tension. Other times, a feeling arises first, a heaviness in the chest or a rush of energy, and the mind scrambles to explain it. I must be anxious, I must be excited, something must be wrong. The two feed each other in a loop, and soon we are lost in a story that feels as real as anything outside of us. Imagine remembering an old mistake. The thought flickers. I failed back then. Almost instantly, the body responds. The heart drops. The muscles tighten. The mood darkens. That feeling confirms the thought, and more thoughts appear. I always fail. I cannot be trusted. I am worthless. Now the feeling deepens, the sadness thickens, and a whole world is constructed from one tiny memory. You are no longer just remembering a moment, you are reliving an identity. This is the power of the thought-feeling loop. The same happens with joy. Someone smiles at you with genuine warmth. A feeling of lightness arises, the body softens. Then thought joins. They like me, I am valued, I belong. The joy expands, more thoughts follow. Life is good, I am safe. I want this to last forever. Soon, the joy is not only in the body but wrapped in a story. And yet, just as quickly as it came, it can fade. A single shift in thought, a single shadow of doubt, and the joy dissolves. The loop turns fragile because it is built on passing waves. This cycle can create great suffering, but it can also become a doorway to freedom. The key is noticing. The next time a loop begins, pause. Notice the first spark, whether it is thought or feeling. Notice how quickly the other arrives. And then notice the awareness in which both are appearing. That awareness is never anxious, never joyful, never sad. It simply holds the experience like the sky holds both storm and sunshine. When you rest as that awareness, you are no longer trapped in the loop. Consider anger. Someone says something that hurts you. The feeling surges, heat in the chest, tension in the jaw. The thought arises, they disrespected me, they should not have done that. The feeling intensifies, the thought grows sharper, and before long you are consumed. But if you pause, if you notice the sensation, notice the thought, and then notice the awareness that holds them, a shift happens. You realize the anger is a passing storm. You can still respond, you can still set a boundary, but you are no longer acting from blind reaction. You are acting from clarity. This does not mean feelings are meaningless or that thoughts are illusions. Both carry wisdom. Feelings tell us when something matters, when something needs attention. Thoughts allow us to plan, to choose, to create. But when we identify with them as me, we lose the freedom to use them wisely. We become their servants instead of their masters. By resting in awareness, we regain our freedom. We can listen to feeling without being drowned. We can use thought without being trapped. It is worth practicing this in small moments. Notice the next time you feel a flicker of worry, instead of following the story, pause and feel the sensation in the body. Let the thought pass without clinging. Then notice the awareness that is present, silently holding it all. Or notice the next time you feel joy, instead of clinging, instead of saying, I hope this lasts, simply feel it fully and let it pass when it does. The awareness in which it appears remains untouched, unbroken. The loop of thought and feeling is not the enemy, it is part of being human. But freedom comes when you see that you are not the loop. You are the space in which it plays out. This understanding can transform even the most difficult emotions. Fear becomes energy that can guide you. Sadness becomes tenderness that can open your heart. Anger becomes clarity about your boundaries. Joy becomes a reminder of the beauty of life. All are welcome, all are passing, none are who you truly are. Non-dual teachings describe it simply. Thought and feeling are two sides of the same coin, but the coin itself is awareness. When you flip back and forth between them, you are lost in duality. But when you recognize the coin itself, you are free. In that recognition, peace arises naturally. It does not mean thoughts stop. It does not mean feelings disappear. It means they no longer control you. So begin to notice more often The next time you feel swept away, pause and ask, who is noticing this? Let the question point you back, not to another answer, but to awareness itself. In that moment, the loop softens and you taste the freedom that has always been here. This is the invitation to live not as a prisoner of thought and feeling, but as the awareness that holds them both, to honor them, to listen to them, but to remain free. And in that freedom, life becomes lighter, more compassionate, more true. When we explore even deeper, we find that the sense of ownership, the belief that these thoughts and feelings are mine, is the root of much of our suffering. We speak as if we truly possess them. We say, my anger, my sadness, my fear, my happiness. But can you really control when they arise? Can you stop anger from appearing? Can you summon joy on demand? Thoughts and feelings arrive uninvited and they fade when they are ready. They move through us like weather, yet we cling to them as if they were property, as if they were the definition of who we are. Look carefully the next time anger arises. Notice how suddenly it appears. A word is spoken, a boundary is crossed, and before you can think, heat surges through the body. You did not choose it, you did not plan it. And yet, in the very next breath, the mind declares, this is my anger. That declaration is the trap. The anger itself is only energy moving through awareness, temporary and impersonal. The suffering begins when you label it as mine and then defend it, justify it, feed it with more stories. Without the label, it would pass like a storm. With the label, it lingers, it grows, it consumes. The same is true with fear. Fear arises in the body, tightening the chest, quickening the breath. It is natural, it is biological. But the moment the mind says, I am afraid, this is my fear, the story begins. The mind explains, elaborates, projects into the future. Soon you are no longer experiencing fear, you are carrying it as an identity. You become the one who is afraid. But in truth, fear is only an experience passing through awareness. It does not belong to you. It does not define you. Even joy, which we often welcome, can become suffering when we cling to it. A joyful moment arises, the heart feels light, the body relaxes. But then thought enters, I hope this lasts. I do not want it to end. That clinging tightens the joy, turning it into fear of loss. The joy itself is natural, beautiful, fleeting, but when you claim it as my joy, you begin to suffer the moment it starts to fade. Awareness holds both the joy and its passing, untouched by either. When you realize this, a powerful shift happens. You no longer feel the need to own every passing thought or feeling. You can allow them to come and go, as they always have, without taking them personally. Anger can appear, and you simply say, anger is here. Fear can appear, and you say, fear is here. Joy can appear, and you say, joy is here. None of them are mine. None of them define you. They are weather patterns moving through the sky of awareness. And you are the sky, vast and unchanging. This recognition does not make you passive. On the contrary, it gives you freedom to respond wisely. When you no longer identify with anger, you can use its energy to set clear boundaries without being consumed by rage. When you no longer identify with fear, you can listen to its signal and act with clarity instead of paralysis. When you no longer identify with joy, you can savor it fully Without the desperation of clinging, every experience becomes a guide instead of a prison. The illusion of ownership is deeply rooted, but it begins to dissolve the more you practice. Each time you notice a thought and say, "This is just a thought in awareness," you weaken the old habit. Each time you notice a feeling and say, "This is just energy passing through," you loosen the grip. Slowly you begin to live as awareness itself instead of as the character lost in the story. Think of life as a movie playing on a screen. The characters laugh, cry, suffer, triumph. For a while you forget. You identify with them. You feel their emotions as if they are yours. But when the movie ends, you remember it was only light on a screen. Life is not so different. Thoughts and feelings are the movie. Awareness is the screen. When you forget, you are lost in the drama. When you remember, you rest as the screen itself, untouched, unbroken, free. This does not make life dull, it makes life more vivid. Because when you no longer cling to every passing wave, you are free to experience them fully. You can laugh deeply, cry deeply, love deeply, without fear. Because you know, none of it can harm the awareness you truly are. The joy of life becomes richer because it is no longer tangled in ownership. Every moment is honored, every experience is welcome, and none of them are mistaken as your essence. So, the practice is simple but profound. The next time a thought or feeling arises, pause. Instead of saying, "This is mine," simply say, "This is here." Notice how that small shift opens space. Notice how the grip loosens in that space. You taste the freedom that has always been here. You are not the storm, you are the sky. You are not the movie, you are the screen. And in that recognition, peace arises naturally. As we arrive at the heart of this journey, it becomes clear that the real question is not whether thought is more important than feeling, or feeling is more important than thought. The real question is, where do they arise? What is the ground that holds them both? Once you see this, the struggle begins to dissolve and a deeper peace takes root in your life. Feelings are powerful, primal, immediate. They tell you when you are in danger, when you are safe, when something matters. Thoughts are refined, deliberate, capable of creating visions, solving problems, and imagining futures. Both are essential. But neither can give you lasting peace if you identify with them. Because both are temporary, both are passing. Feelings surge and fade, thoughts rise and dissolve. They are waves in the ocean, clouds in the sky, images on the screen. If you cling to them, you suffer. If you resist them, you suffer. But if you rest in the awareness that holds them, you discover freedom. Imagine walking through life with this recognition. Anxious thoughts appear, and instead of being pulled into them, you notice this is anxiety arising in awareness. Sadness moves through the body, and instead of drowning, you notice this is sadness moving in awareness. Joy blossoms in the heart, and instead of clinging, you notice this is joy. Here, now, passing soon. In every case, you remain steady, open, spacious. You no longer confuse the passing weather for the sky itself. You know yourself as the sky. This recognition does not remove challenges. Life will still bring loss, change, conflict, and uncertainty. But the way you meet them changes completely. Instead of being thrown into chaos by every storm, You meet each one from the stillness of awareness. Fear can arise, and you act wisely without panic. Anger can arise, and you set boundaries without cruelty. Joy can arise, and you savor it without clinging. Sadness can arise, and you honor it without despair. Every experience is met, but none define you. From this place, you begin to live with more compassion, because when you see that your own thoughts and feelings are not truly yours, you also see that the same is true for others. When someone lashes out in anger, you recognize that anger is simply moving through them, just as it sometimes moves through you. When someone is lost in fear, you remember that fear is not who they are. It is only an experience passing through their awareness. This understanding softens judgment, opens the heart, and allows love to flow more freely. The tension between thought and feeling dissolves in this recognition. They are no longer enemies, no longer competitors for control. They are simply movements within awareness, arising and fading like waves. Sometimes a thought triggers a feeling, sometimes a feeling triggers a thought, but both are made of the same essence. When you know yourself as awareness, you do not need to choose sides. You can embrace both, honor both, and remain free from both. There is a metaphor that captures this beautifully. Imagine sitting by a river. Thoughts are like the ripples on the surface. Feelings are like the deeper currents below. Sometimes the ripples are calm, sometimes turbulent. Sometimes the currents are strong, sometimes gentle. But you are not the ripples, and you are not the currents. You are the riverbed itself, steady, silent, holding it all. When you rest as the riverbed, the ripples and currents can move freely, but they no longer control you. Practice this in your daily life. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause. Notice the thought. Notice the feeling. And then notice the awareness that is holding both. Rest there. Even for a breath. That breath is enough to remind you of your true nature. That breath is enough to loosen the grip of the storm. With time, this practice becomes a way of being. You live more and more from awareness, less and less from identification. Peace becomes natural, not because life is perfect, but because you no longer mistake the passing waves for who you are. This is the invitation of non-duality, the invitation to rest as the awareness that underlies all experience. It does not ask you to deny thoughts or suppress feelings. It does not ask you to escape life or reject your humanity. It asks only that you remember. Remember that thoughts and feelings are passing and awareness is constant. Remember that you are the sky, not the storm. Remember that you are the screen, not the movie. Remember that you are the ocean, not the waves. When you live from this recognition, life becomes lighter, freer, more compassionate. You no longer ask which came first, thought or feeling. You no longer ask, how can I control them? You simply rest as awareness and let them move through. This is not resignation, it is liberation. This is not indifference, it is the deepest intimacy with life. Because when you are no longer tangled in clinging or resistance, you can finally experience each moment fully without fear. So let this truth settle in your heart. You are not the thoughts that trouble you. You are not the feelings that overwhelm you. You are the awareness that holds them both, timeless, unchanging, free. When you rest in that awareness, nothing can shake you, nothing can define you, nothing can take away the peace that is already here. If this message touched you, take a moment now to breathe and let it settle. Remember, you are not the passing thoughts and you are not the fleeting feelings. You are the awareness that holds them all. If you found peace here, share this video with someone who may be struggling with their own mind so they too can remember who they really are. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next guided meditation and reflection. And if your heart is ready to go deeper, stay with me and continue to the next video where together we will rest.